right. Hey, y'all. Hey, everybody. These are not notes, but this is a prop which will reveal itself in time. But yeah, my name is Jacob. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, originally. I've been living in Durham now, so more Durham love. Whoop, whoop. Bull City. For about a couple years now, bumping around. But this story is about my grandma, who we all called Oma. And Oma lived in Columbus. And Oma made the best damn, Sunday night dinner that you could ever possibly imagine. Because Oma was from Texas. Any Texas folks out here? No? A little bit? So, not the pork rind, but the brisket, right? Yeah. Man, Oma's brisket was like just the meatiest, most beautiful, smoky, succulent thing you could ever imagine. And the table always had okra, pickled okra, which was, yeah, right? And I feel like, I didn't move to the South yet. I was from Ohio. So, like, pulling that green, kind of like a little bit like off green, right? When it gets pickled okra, you pull it out of the jar and that long mucilaginous gel's coming off it, right? And you're 12 years old and you're like chasing it around and like throwing it on each other. But you always had the big pickle plate, we had, crackers and cheese. We had, just different, greens. We had some catfish sometimes. You just always had this huge plate of food for everyone, And Oma, she had the classic, kind of like Midwestern lady, perm, a little bit like a little overdone. But, God bless her. I love that to death because, she just had that look. She was a math teacher by training, so she was teaching my dad and his siblings, trigonometry and then like making the brisket and then going, back to helping them with their calculus. And so she just was someone with a lot of skills and talent. And the meal item that we all were the most drawn to was Oma's salsa. This is like a good sort of Texas salsa recipe that she would make. And, it was just had, the huge chunks of pickled jalapenos and tomatoes and all these things from her garden that we'd all, gather around and kind of fight over the last little bits of eating together. And it was just this, a space for me and my maybe 12 cousins to, kind of be together in their small Columbus house, and spend this time together. Even though none of us were from Texas, we all lived in Ohio. She kind of brought this with her from her experience living there. Fast forward, maybe till when I was about 18, and Oma passed away. She had a beautiful, healthy life. She passed away, in a way that was, dignified, and we're grateful for that. And my cousin Gretchen. Gretchen's about 6'2", so we're about the same height. She plays the tuba. Now she's a lawyer, so you can imagine she's kind of got this thing about her. But she picked up a lot of Oma's secrets in the kitchen, and she wrote this cookbook for all of us. So this is the Rutz family cookbook that she put together for us. And Oma from Texas. Any guesses what her first language she spoke was at home? Hints, it's not English. What was it? German, yes, German, right. You can probably tell our complexion's not exactly very brown. Not a lot of Spanish speaking in our family. German, yeah. So she grew up in a all German speaking household with 12 other siblings where they had to be thrifty. They had to be living, close to the land. And so, this recipe book we have is this really fantastic sort of amalgamation of German recipes that are like completely in German. If you want to look like in the front, like the first set are German recipes that I can't read. I don't know how to pronounce them. I never learned German. And then as well as recipes that are, from Texas, that are the briskets and the okra and the salsa. And, and as I've gotten older and I live in Ohio, now I'm in the South, I have this, this dinner table I didn't mention. In addition to the brisket, we had the sausage, we had sauerkraut, we had the German potatoes. So it was always this sort of like mix of different stuff that didn't, perceptibly go together, but to me really fit. And as I've gotten older, the thing that stuck with me was that salsa because it was just such a mix of different things that brought all of us together. And in many ways, I haven't really found a culinary history in my family. I have always felt a little bit wayward just in terms of like, do we cook German food? Do we cook, sort of Midwestern food, whatever that means? Am I getting into Southern food now? And I have these swirling concerns. Are we appropriating if we're eating salt? What does this all mean? And so I'm trying to find this home in the foods And, and what her cooking has, taught me with that salsa as this backbone recipe that I have now made, and now I make with my son, who's 2, who loves it as well. He's immediately taken to it, which is like, God bless him. Like, if he didn't, we'd have trouble. But we've been able to sort of live in this sort of hodgepodge, this mix of, different kind of cultural sort of touchstones that have sort of tracked with us as we've moved across the country. And so I'm grateful for my Oma for having, introduced us to this sort of this culinary mix and this sort of culinary diversity that sort of helps us show that we can be dynamic as we grow and move in wherever we live. Thanks.
All right, let's give some love to Jacob.